What's going on, guys? It's your boy Obsterbone, no longer Simpson Bone. Yes, I have heard your complaints. You don't like me being yellow. First of all, the reason I was yellow in my past few videos is because I decided, you know what? I got a new webcam, my Logitech Brio. It's 4K, 60 FPS. It's probably better than this piece of crap camcorder I got over here. Well, one small thing is that it makes me yellow and it's overly saturated. I've tried playing with the settings, I can't figure it out, and it looks like the majority of you just want the regular old white Avi, so here we go. So today's video, we're gonna talk about when I become president. Now, if you guys aren't aware, I will be a future president of the United States. There's just no question in my mind, or really anybody else's, with my great ideas such as the Detroit amusement park and Mario Kart in real life. I am clearly prepared to lead the country. Typically, I don't want people to vote for me, but you know what? When it comes to being president, please vote for me. Let's see, when will I be able to become president? 35, I got 18 more years until I turn 30. So yes, 18 years until I can become president, because it is 35 in the United States. So if you aren't familiar with politics at all, Hillary Clinton is the current president of the United States. She is the first woman to be president. Now, one of the things that Hillary Clinton always talks about is building a wall. She really wants this big physical barrier with Mexico, and she's currently the result of the government shutdown because she cannot negotiate with the Republicans to get that border wall built. And as a lack of that, funding has been stopped because she won't budge on having the wall, and the Republicans won't budge on not giving her the money for the wall. So therefore, no paychecks for people in the government. There are about 800,000 people who have been furloughed or just not being called into work because they're not deemed essential. And people who are considered essential are still working, but without pay, with the promise of back pay. But then again, we'll have to see if the government reopens because that border wall funding doesn't look like it's coming. So it got me thinking, when it's my turn to become president, it would be good to have some sort of video put out there that people can look back on and that I can look back on. You know, where was my mind at when it came to politics and policies and what I want to do with the country? And I have a few things that I want to pitch out to you guys, and we'll see if I win your vote. So the first thing, let's talk about taxes. So taxes are those wonderful things that you don't have to pay in Dubai, but over here in the United States, your income tax, your property taxes, all that stuff. Now, I'm just going to talk about the federal income tax because that's the only one that I feel like I have a solution that I've come up with for. The current tax system that we have in America is a sliding scale based on income. So if you're making below the poverty line, you pay something like 10% to the federal government, 15% if you're like middle, and then if you're really, really rich, 35%. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't feel that you should be penalized for making too much money. I think that the idea of a sliding tax bracket that penalizes you as you make more money is really dumb. So this is the system that I would implement. I would implement a flat or no tax system. Basically, the way the system works is that if you are making at the poverty line or below the poverty line or some other number deemed by the federal government based on how many kids you have, all that fun stuff, there'll be some sort of equation. You pay no taxes to the federal government because the idea is that if you can't afford to support yourself, why would you be giving the federal government money? Because we'll just be giving you the money back in terms of welfare and food stamps. And honestly, it's probably going to cost more because if we let you keep all of your money, you might be able to figure out ways specific to your situation to make that money stretch that the federal government would have. So if you're making below the poverty line, keep your money. We don't want it. Wish you the best of luck. Federal government will stay out of it. Hopefully you can figure it out. Granted, those benefits like welfare and food stamps will still be available to you, but with that extra cash that we're not going to be taking, hopefully you'll be able to make that stretch and not have to apply for government benefits. Now, let's say that you are better off and you're making a good amount of money, you know, middle class, or even like super wealthy Jeff Bezos. 20%. That's it. 20% income tax. Here's why. You might be saying, well, you know, if you're making as much money as Jeff Bezos, you should be paying more in taxes. And my response to that is that he doesn't even pay 20% in taxes. It may say there's a 35% tax bracket, but dude, are you kidding me? All of that money is being used through loopholes within the IRS code, hidden overseas. When you create a high tax, you create an incentive for evasion. You basically motivate that individual that I don't want to pay these taxes, so how can I move my money around or what can I spend it on so I have to pay as little as possible to the federal government? If you have a system that just flat taxes you, then, you know, what's the incentive? Because at some point, you have to weigh out what's worth more, paying 20% of my taxes or paying full-time legal staff to figure out these loopholes? And at what point do they kind of equalize? And I feel like that 20% would be really fair, and that's what you would contribute to society. I would also get rid of all deductions. I feel that deductions make things confusing. They're often special interest. For example, if you have a farm, you know, then you're appealing to agriculture. If you live in an apartment that has solar panels, then you're appealing to the environmentalists. No deductions. Just keep it simple. My ideal tax system is literally one page. List your income. Are you either above the defined dollar threshold or below? If you're below, then keep the piece of paper, don't want it. Not gonna pay any taxes. If you're above, what's 20% of that? Send us a check. That's simple. As most of you know, I do have a job, and I can say that despite it only being a W-2, my God, is that form unnecessarily lengthy, long, and quite frankly, confusing. It would be so much easier if they just gave you the dollar amount, took 20%, and that was it. I'm gonna show you a recent pay stub of mine. Can you see how many deductions there are? Medicare, Social Security, income, it's like all of these stupid little sections. It's just make one big one. Just one big one. That doesn't need to be confusing. That is my idea on taxes. Moving on to abortion. Now, I made a separate video about this a while ago, but I'm just gonna kind of re-pitch it on over here, a little bit modified. My opinion on abortion is that there are two sides to the argument. You have the pro-choice movement and the pro-life movement. What's my opinion? Pro-death. The less kids, the better. My attitude is that the less people that are being born into the country are less liabilities, less money that has to be spent on them, all that stuff. Especially, my stupid dog goes, Cosmo, shut up! Elijah, why is the dog barking? If you think about it, an abortion means that that child is not wanted. And I understand that there's the argument for Christians and Catholics and really religious people that it's like, well, it's a life that's being lost. And here's my opinion on it. I'm in the federal government. Religion is not supposed to be in there. That's the difference between church and state. We keep them separate. I don't put my religious beliefs inside the federal government. I'm not gonna make it so on Hanukkah, we shut everything down for 8 days. That makes zero sense. The majority of abortions are because the child is not wanted. And in most cases, it is because of a financially strained situation. For example, a teen pregnancy. Having that abortion can save a financial burden for the family and, more importantly, the taxpayer. Because if you think about it, adding a child into a household that cannot support it only means one thing. They're going on government benefits. You're giving that child food stamps, you're gonna give that child housing, and it's just gonna be a lot of money. I would also fund Planned Parenthood, and here's why. People say, why should tax dollars go towards funding abortions? And my opinion on it is that it is gonna cost me less as a taxpayer to fund that one-time abortion than it will to fund that child's government benefits up until they're 18 and possibly even farther. Because as you know, a child born into a poor family that can't support it is less likely to succeed in the world. And I would much rather have that one-time abortion fee paid by the taxpayer than those benefits over a long period of time. Now let's talk about healthcare. Now here is my opinion on healthcare. I am not for a single payer system. What I am for is the federal government getting the little fingers outside of healthcare. So Adam Ruins Everything made a great video on this, talking about healthcare and hospitals and how the system is totally rigged against you and how it's completely broken. I'm gonna link that video. Basically, insurance is the reason why healthcare is so insanely expensive. What happens is that these procedures that typically cost the hospitals extremely little to do, insurance companies are like, well, if we have all these clients with us, you're gonna give us a steep discount on it. And then therefore they have to negotiate, and then the prices are hiked up for everybody else for no reason. Furthermore, it is almost impossible to figure out what you are getting at the hospital until you are sent the bill. It's not like you could just go in there and there's an a la carte menu to pick from an IV fluid, a heart surgery. You just don't know the price until you get the bill. And by that point, your insurance has most likely paid for it. And health insurance premiums, depending on where you live, can be exorbitantly expensive. What I would do is I would say transparency. I would make it illegal for hospitals to make it hard or impossible to find the prices of their services. I would say you're gonna make your prices public. Hospitals use this thing called a charge master, which is basically a master booklet computerized system of a price for everything. You're making that public. I don't go out to dinner and get a menu with no prices on it. I know exactly what I'm paying for my 2 eggs, my hamburger, and my broccoli. Now, for those who are living below the poverty line or cannot simply afford healthcare, I would have some sort of socialized system to keep that in place, because I do believe that everyone is entitled to some form of healthcare. That would have to be figured out at a later date, but I would try to privatize it for everybody who can afford it, and then for those who can't, we will have some form of socialized medicine. But it will not be as good as the private, because you cannot incentivize people to stay where they are. You gotta incentivize them to move up. All right, let's talk about benefits for the rich people. Now, one of the things that I never understood as an American is that there are all of these benefits, services, offices for people who are out of luck or are poor or can't afford it. And my attitude is that What is the federal government doing for people like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, rich people, just average Joes who are middle class and have a lot of money and don't need anything to do with the federal government? All they are is just making their life difficult. They're not doing anything for them that benefits them. Yeah, they're providing, a military and all that stuff, but it's not anything that poor people aren't provided with. There's nothing exclusive to them. This may sound like a crazy idea. I am a fan of the idea of the federal government building clubs for rich people. Think about it, all right? I'm a wealthy man, and my taxpayers go to fund all these poor people, but hey, now my taxpayers are funding a club that I can go to because I pay the 20% tax. We would have a lot of DJ clubs, we'd have a few strip clubs. It would just basically be a way for wealthy people to get down and party and have a good time and really enjoy the country that they're a part of. And I think that it would make the taxpayer feel more obligated to pay those taxes, and if they are thinking about evasion, they can be like, well, then I'm not going to be able to join that strip club. Furthermore, as president, I am a fan of social media and the uses of internet and technology to communicate with people. If I were president today, what I would do is I would make the American Discord server. Basically, the way it would work is that you'd have a bunch of different ranks for federal positions. So you'd have the president, the vice president, the cabinet, the House of Representatives, the Senate, and then you have all the constituents. And in order to be a part of this Discord server, you have to send in a copy of your passport, and then you'll then be authorized to be able to participate in the server. Also, if I were president, I would host weekly voice chats. I would basically join a channel with several million people from America, and we would just talk. What I would also do as president is I would make sure to live stream a lot. I feel like that the president should be somebody that is connected with the American people. I look at PewDiePie, how he does it very personable with his YouTube channel, where he has shows like Lawai and Meme Review, where he looks at Reddit, which are submitted by his viewers. And for a channel with the most subscribers out of everybody, it still does feel like a small, tight-knit community. And that would be something that I would aim to emulate with being the president of the United States. That I would live stream myself in the Oval Office, I would take questions from the chat, and basically, based on the amount of bits that you cheer, I would answer your question in that priority. Ladies and gentlemen, those are all of my ideas for when I become president. Future Avi, if you're watching this, I hope you stay true to these ideas and execute on them, because this is what the American people are gonna want. Your generation loves this type of stuff. Keep it up, Avi. I'm proud of you. You're gonna do a great job as president, and I'm gonna see you later at the second term, 4 years later. Peace out, guys.